Welcome to The Needle, your Division I college basketball podcast. I'm Jack Williams, owner and operator of D1CoachCorner.com, your source for college basketball news, rankings, and predictions. On this podcast, we will present to you weekly conversations on D1 college basketball coaches and their teams. Don't forget to go right now on your computer, phone, or tablet and follow us on Twitter. This episode of The Needle is brought to you by D1CoachCorner.com, your source for Division I college basketball coaches. Thank you for tuning into our 21st episode of The Needle. Again, my name is Jack Williams, owner and operator of D1CoachCorner.com, your source for college basketball news, rankings, and predictions. D1 Coach Corner is the number one source for college basketball preseason predictions and college basketball coach evaluations. The Needle College Basketball Podcast will bring to you 52 weeks of college basketball talk on topics dealing with Division I college basketball coaches and their teams. In this episode of The Needle, we'll be looking at some coaching hires that occurred in the month of April and discuss why we feel that these were either good hires or why they were either questionable hires. And then we'll get into some coaching news and tad bits, and then our coaching changes segment of the show. We'll also bring to you our new Coach Impact segment, which will highlight coaches who have recently taken over a team and has positively impacted the team as a result of him being there. We are now in the middle of April. The coaching carousel seems to be slowing down a little. Most schools have gotten new coaches in prior to the April recruiting period so that they could get a good start at shaping their teams for the 2019-2020 season. Since part one of our show, we have had several coaches to advance from one team to the next, and I think that all of our new coaches who have advanced to other teams in this episode were very good hires, including the Steve Alford hire to Nevada. Staying on the topic of Steve Alford, Coach Alford is going to have his work cut out for him his first season at Nevada. After all of the departure, he has 11 scholarships to fill. The good news is guard Jazz Johnson has recommitted to Nevada. Johnson played nearly every game last season as reserve guard. Nevada really didn't have a true point guard last season. Forward Cody Martin did most of the ball handling. It's going to be interesting to see how Coach Steve Alford uses Jazz Johnson. It was reported that Jordan Brown, Nevada's highest-ranking freshman since 2008, has entered his name into the transfer portal. Under the new rules, he could come back to the team if he doesn't feel that he's gotten a good enough deal or has been picked up by the right team. However, under the new rules, the previous coach doesn't have to accept him back if he doesn't want to. But overall, the Steve Alford pickup for Nevada was a very good one. Coach Steve Alford is actually a very good coach. He was just fired from a school that had very high standards. Mick Cronin takes Coach Steve Alford's spot at UCLA. To be honest with you, I don't know if they should have replaced Steve Alford for Mick Cronin. And if I was Mick Cronin, I probably wouldn't have taken a job that had fired a man after he had taken a team to the Sweet 16 3 times out of the last 6 seasons. How many times has Mick Cronin led Cincinnati to the Sweet 16 in his last 6 seasons? None. Only once in the last 8 seasons. And their win percentages are about the same. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Mick Cronin as a coach, but I don't see how he's a better coach than Steve Alford. On my site, I had Steve Alford listed as the 26th most accomplished coach based on their records prior to the end of the 2018-2019 season, and Mick Cronin listed as the 46th most accomplished coach based on his record prior to the end of the 2018-2019 season. So I'm going to put this one as a questionable hire. On the other hand, Coach Cronin should have a pretty good roster to work with for the 2019-2020 season. He stated in an interview that Moses Brown is more than likely going to turn pro and is not returning. Coach Cronin could use the scholarship to get himself a dependable point guard. Coach John Brannon left Northern Kentucky to take the place of Mick Cronin at Cincinnati. This hire makes a lot of sense because Coach Brannon has proven that he can consistently lead a team to the NCAA tournament. However, the two coaches have different styles of coaching. Brannon is an up-tempo offensive-minded coach. Coach Cronin was a defensive-minded coach at Cincinnati. So we'll see how that'll play out. As far as his roster is concerned, Coach Brannon has 2 scholarships remaining, and we have to see what his star player, Jerron Cumberland, does. However, Cumberland isn't anywhere on the NBA radar and would probably benefit from returning to a Brannon Cincinnati team because he'll be able to shine a little bit more under a Coach Brannon's offensive coaching style. We already mentioned on episode 20 that we felt that Coach Eric Musselman's advance to Arkansas was a good hire for the team. However, he got a lot of work to do for this roster. He has only one scholarship remaining with the team that has to address a few needs. One of the most important needs is their front court. That front court last season was a little too small. As a result, Arkansas was one of the worst rebounding teams in the SEC. Arkansas ranked 13th in the SEC and 274th in the nation in total rebounds per game. Their lack of size caused them to foul a lot. Arkansas committed 20.4 fouls per game, the most in the SEC and damn near the most in the college basketball. So Musselman going to either have to bring in some big men who can shoot and rebound or some guards who can rebound and shoot. As mentioned before, Coach Ron Hunter was hired by Tulane at the end of the season. Coach Hunter is going to have to totally change the way this team does business. Under Coach Dunleavy, this Tulane team was very bad in all categories. However, this team still has potential. Coach Hunter is bringing in his coaching staff from Georgia State, so expect this Tulane team to start playing like a Georgia State team. Coach Hunter is going to put them in a position where they're going to have to play defense first of all. Coach Hunter does not play man defense at all. He relies a lot on the matchup zone defense. Now, Coach Hunter is going to have his work cut out on this roster. Can he get leading scorer Caleb Daniel and Samir Sahik to come back in the mix? And what is Coach Hunter going to do with his 2 scholarships remaining? Real good hire for Tulane, however. Coach Mike Young took over for Buzz Williams at Virginia Tech after he left to take the job at Texas A&M. Coach Buzz Williams led Virginia Tech to 3 NCAA tournament appearances in a row, which included a Sweet 16 appearance in 2019. Can Coach Young continue success at Virginia Tech? Of course he can. Coach Young led Wofford to the postseason tournament 7 times out of the last 10 seasons. He's going to have his work cut out for him, though, with his first roster at Virginia Tech. Fortunately, he will have redshirt freshman Landers Noley on the roster next season, according to Richmond.com. That's a good start, but Coach Young has 7 scholarships to fill at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's top scorer from the 2018-2019 season, Nikhil Alexander Walker, will be going to the NBA, and his next best scorer, forward Kerry Blackshear Jr., has put his name in the NCAA transfer portal, along with a few others. If Kerry Blackshear Jr. and Wabisa B doesn't return, this is truly going to be a rebuild season for Virginia Tech. If so, Coach Young will probably use this season to build for the 2020-2021 season. To stay competitive, Coach Young may have to bring in a couple of top-level graduate transfers and JUCO transfers to stay competitive this season. Just stay far away from the basement of the ACC as possible. Coach Casey Alexander took over the job at Belmont after the retirement of Coach Rick Byrd. This was a no-brainer pick for this job. Everyone was expecting Alexander to take over the team that he played for and served as assistant coach for over 16 years. Coach Alexander is also from Tennessee. Coach Alexander will be without scorers Dylan Windler and Kevin McClain, who are both graduating this year. But he should still have a very strong roster to work with. Belmont had a few good freshmen who had put in work to get this team to the NCAA tournament, and they should be returning. You have freshman Nick Muzinski, who was the 3rd scoring option behind the 2 seniors. He's going to also have freshman Grayson Murphy, who was the team's 4th scoring option and who started in all 33 games. Both will be sophomores next season, and he should also have Caleb Hollander and Nick Hopkins back. Coach Mark Pope is a good fit for BYU. His final 2 seasons at Utah Valley were winning ones. He should also have a pretty good roster to work with, even though he has a few players transferring because it makes sense for their careers to transfer, and one player, Yoli Childs, declaring for the pros. I hope Mr. Childs is not dependent on the NBA because his name is nowhere near on the NBA radar. Maybe he plans to play overseas, who knows? And so much for that. Now, let's look into a few coaching changes for 2019. On April 14, 2019, Coach John Brannon leaves Northern Kentucky after just 4 seasons to take the job at Cincinnati. Coach Brannon led Northern Kentucky to 3 postseason appearances in the last 4 seasons. Utah Valley hires Los Angeles Lakers assistant Mark Matson as head coach. Wofford named associate head coach Jay McCarley as head coach. McCarley would take the place of Coach Mike Young, who advanced to Virginia Tech. On April 18, 2019, Southern Mississippi hired Southeastern Louisiana's coach Jay Latner to be their next head coach. Southeastern Louisiana had only 1 losing season out of 5 seasons under Coach Latner's leadership. On Friday, April 19, 2019, St. John's hired Arkansas's former coach Mike Anderson to serve as their next head coach. Anderson was fired from Arkansas after 8 seasons with the team. Mississippi Valley hired former NBA player Lindsey Hunter. Lindsey Hunter once served as assistant coach under Coach Nate Oates at Buffalo. And now for our assistant coach watch, UTEP men's basketball head coach Rodney Terry named Kenton Paulino to his staff. Coach Paulino served as Coach Rodney Terry's assistant at Fresno State from 2012 to 2017. Elon's head basketball coach Mike Schrage announced the addition of Jonathan Holmes as assistant coach. Holmes joined Elon's staff after serving 11 years on the Williams & Mary coaching staff. Coach Brendan Strong has been named assistant coach for the St. Joseph's men's basketball program. A native of Maryland, Strong has served as assistant coach for one of the area's top AAU programs, Team Takeover. Coach Dan Marley brought on Coach Marvin Menzies to serve as associate head coach. Coach Menzies was fired after 3 seasons at UNLV. Coach Cronin brings Darren Savino with him to UCLA from Cincinnati. Savino was associate head coach under Cronin last season. Coach Jerry Stackhouse adds Adams Mazzarre to his coaching staff. Coach Mazzarre has recruiting ties out of California. Mazzarre once served as assistant coach at Moore Park Community College out of California. He also worked as a player development coach for the Impact Basketball Academy located in Las Vegas, Nevada. And that concludes the needle moving portion of our show. We'll now get into some coaching news and our new Coach Impact segment of our show. This portion of our show is brought to you by D1CoachCorner.com, your source for college basketball news, rankings, and prediction. Once again, don't forget to go follow us on Twitter after the show at D1CoachCorner. Now for some coaching news. The Associated Press reported that Tennessee's Rick Barnes could have had the job at UCLA if it wasn't for the buyout. Barnes' contract required Tennessee to receive approximately $5 million if Barnes leaves for another job with 5 years left on his contract. Loyola Chicago's head coach Porter Mercer turns down the job at St. John's and has decided to stay put at Loyola Chicago. Chris Muller resigned from St. John's last week after 4 seasons with the team. What's going on at St. John's that's causing so many coaches to turn down the job? LSU would get their coach back after NCAA officials met with the coach last Friday. Coach Wade missed LSU's postseason competition due to the suspension from the team. Recruiting season begins. Coach Izzo signed 4-star guard Mark Watts. Watts is a 6'2" guard out of Michigan. Miami signed 6'4" guard Harlan Beverly from Michigan. Beverly also played for Monteverde in Florida for his final year in high school. On Friday, April 19, 2019, the NCAA officials rejected a proposal to require a graduate transfer to count against a team's scholarship total for 2 years in football and basketball. 2 biggest money-making sports in college basketball. Thank God it was rejected. Now for my little college basketball tad bit. Recruiting is everything in college basketball. A great coach can't do anything without great players. So every blue moon we'll get a coach to enter into college basketball with his own style of recruiting, his own little niche of how to bring in winning players. 3 that comes to mind right from the top of my head are Coach John Calipari of Kentucky, Coach K of Duke, and Coach Chris Beard of Texas Tech. Coach John Calipari was the master of the one and done. He was an expert at picking up top freshmen in the country and winning with them. Coach K at one point was the master of finding guys who had balanced lives. Most of his players had come from nuclear-style families, families with their mom and dad still at home. Coach Chris Beard is the master of recruiting transfer students, especially the graduate transfer student, who could come in and help the team win right away. However, 2 out of these 3 coaches, Calipari and Beard, may have to alter their way of recruiting a little due to the changing rules in NCAA basketball. Coach Calipari may have a harder time convincing 5-star recruits to come to college due to the fact that they may have the opportunity to go to the NBA or the G League right out of high school. Coach Beard may not want to deal with grad transfers anymore due to the fact that he may have to lose 1 scholarship for 2 seasons due to the proposed graduate transfer rules. Under the current rules, grad transfers are allowed to transfer to another school without sitting out a season. They are immediately eligible to play. But under the proposed agreement, the NCAA would practically punish teams who take graduate transfers by taking 1 scholarship away from a team scholarship total for a period of 2 years. What a crock of crap. The administrators say that they want to do this because many graduate transfers aren't completing their graduate degrees. You see, This is the problem that they have in the NCAA basketball. Too many rules in place. The graduate transfer helped many coaches fill much needed voids immediately. If this proposed agreement had passed, a graduate transfer would have had to been well worth it to get a scholarship offer from a coach. Why is the NCAA administrator concerned about a player not finishing his grad studies? Do you believe in choice? If an athlete chooses to go to grad school and quit afterwards, that's his choice. Respect it. Does the NCAA administration understand that they are going to have to compete with the NBA, G League, and overseas basketball in the future? Stop tying the hands of these coaches. I hope that this agreement fails, and please don't bring it back up again. Now for our new coach impact. In this new coach impact segment, we'll be discussing head coaches who have been head coach of a particular basketball team for no more than 5 years and who are on an upward trend towards taking that team to another level. This week's new coach impact highlights Coach Tim Jankovich of SMU. Coach Jankovich is hard at work on the recruiting trail to make SMU competitive next season. He has recruited the number one JUCO transfer in this country to his team in Tyson Jolly. Jolly is a 6'4" guard who can do it all: rebound, score, pass, and defend. He is an excellent defender. He averages 22.6 points, 12.5 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.6 steals, and 1.5 blocks in 36 games this season. Jolly will be immediately available to play this coming season. SMU has also scored California's transfer guard Darius McNeil. Coach Jankovich is hoping that Darius McNeil receives a waiver from the NCAA and will be able to play immediately. SMU also added depth in the front court by picking up Texas A&M transfer Isaiah Jacy. Jason will be eligible to join the team at the conclusion of the 2019 fall semester after transferring mid-season. Now that concludes our show for this week. Join us next week at the same time and channel for new episodes. We'll be happy to take your questions and comments on Twitter for our next episode. Our Twitter handle is at D1CoachCorner. That is at D1CoachCorner. See you next week.